demonstrator with Stampin' Up. Welcome to my little craft corner. Stampin' Up demonstrators go to convention. One tradition of going to convention is to take swaps. I will be bringing about 100 of these cards to trade with other demonstrators, and I will be able to come home with 100 swaps that I receive. It's a great way to get lots of ideas and inspiration. When I make a lot of cards, I kind of go into an assembly line mode. The first thing you need to do is order your supplies. You don't want to run out in the middle. And so I've done some computations. So I'm going to use watercolor wash, watercolor wings, or the bundle. And really, I had those already. And Butterfly Basics, I already had those. The things I need to be sure and have enough of is my paper and ink and a few extra supplies. And I need 1 or 2 packs of rhinestones. Anytime you're going to be going into production mode, making a lot of the same card, you want to be sure and have your refill inks available. Cutting blades is something I don't ever think about, but you want to be sure, eventually those blades do get dull and start cutting a rough edge on it. So you need some replacement blades. And of course I'll need my framelits and the die cutting machine. I might want to think about having some extra replacement cutting plates on hand and some stamping mist refill. I will need to be sure and have plenty of adhesive, so I've got glue dots and fast fuse refills on my list as well. If I were making cards in production mode and I was making the kind that open this way, these are 8.5 by 5.5 scored at 4 1/4, which is our basic card size. I would score it at 4 1/4 with the light colored scoring blade and then turn and cut. But since I am only doing card fronts, I'm going to cut 1 1/4 and 5.5, and I'm going to go ahead and cut all of my cards at once. When you are making one card and designing as you go, you really have to do a lot of thinking about what you plan to include in that card, whether you like colors. You're getting out each tool. If you need your trimmer, you get that out and then put it away, and you get out your stamp set and put it away, and you get out your stamp pad and you put it away. But when you're making 100 or so, you kind of get into the zone. I'm not putting away my stamping trimmer after every cut. I'm not having to think about each step that I'm doing. And so the time goes by really quickly. And I think I've just about got all of my cardstock cut. This layer, instead of 4 1/4, I'm going to make it 4 by 5 1/4, and so I will have some small strips. Shimmery White is one of those kind of specialty papers that sometimes I make every effort to save every little scrap. But when you're making 100 cards, you really need 100 little tiny pieces. But I am going to be mindful of using my layers, because I don't know if you noticed, I actually cut this layer out of the Shimmery White. To mass produce these cards, I measured the stamp, and it's less than 3.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my window sheets to 3.5 inches. And then I just count them as I go. 70, 75, 80, and then I will keep cutting until I get to 100. So I just need to stamp my 100 butterflies. When you're stamping with Stazon, well, anything really, on the window sheets, you do have to be careful about slippage. So just stamp straight down, straight up. Stazon will stain your photopolymer stamps, but I love the look of this. And I have finished stamping my 100 butterflies with Stazon, and I wanted to show you that yes, my stamp is stained, but I scrubbed it with Stazon and a microfiber cloth, and you can actually see still the lines through. Like the next step then is to stamp my butterfly. So I want to go ahead and stamp all of my Shimmery White. I do lay them out so that they're not sitting on top of each other. Our ink dries pretty quickly, but not immediately. And I'm on my next phase, which is stamping the second layer. So I do have a few extras of this layer because there are more oopsies likely. I have my stack of Shimmery White layer with the 2 layers of butterflies. Next step is to cut those out. And I also need to cut out the crushed curry butterfly, so I can cut those out. Each one of these means one run through the big shot. So if I can reduce those runs through the big shot, I'm going to do it. I have my magnetic platform, I have my clear cutting plate, I'm placing my big bold butterfly and my smaller butterfly with the delicate cutouts, so I'm going to use the wax paper for that. I have my second layer and I have lots of cutting to do. So I do want to keep both of these pieces. It doesn't matter that they are matched because they'll all be cut out exactly the same. And I will have my little butterfly with all the little tiny pieces. I got all my butterflies punched out of my Shimmery White. I have the big butterflies all stacked together and held together with the rubber band. And I'm working on the littler ones. I just went with the wax paper, and that means I'm doing a little bit of poking, and I'm finding that if I stack up several of them, this is I think 3 or 4 together, the secret is to get them lined up perfectly. And so this shouldn't take more than a few seconds to poke all of the little pieces out. And I do have them over a trash can. You will have confetti all over the floor, but not too bad. Next step is to cut out the butterflies. It would be nice to cut them out 2 at a time, so if you can borrow an extra set of framelits, it would make this step a lot faster. So I've got my 100 window sheet butterflies to cut out. Cutting out the window sheet butterflies went pretty fast, but I see that I've got some little kind of hairy things on the edges. So I'm just taking a regular fingernail file and shaving off some of the edges of here, and that should take care of the little hairs. Next step is to stamp the background on the Shimmery White. I have my watercolor wash stamp. This is a really large background stamp, and I decided to get my background stamps in wood mount. I'm going to go ahead and ink with my brayer to get a nice even coat. Laying my paper onto the block. Take just a piece of scrap paper, and I'm using a large, let's see, this is the E block to get a nice even pressure. This step is taking a lot of ink, and I have inked my stamp for the other processes, the other butterflies and so forth, but I wanted to show you re-inking of the stamp pad. So you just add some drops from your re-inkers and spread it around. Usually I use just a regular plastic spoon and spread it around. but I've already got the brayer out, and this is a great way of spreading the ink around. So I'm making a point of re-inking my stamp pad now that I'm almost done with this step. I have all of the ferns stamped now, and so I need to add my greeting, and I'm using Memento Black for that. Next step, I decided to go ahead and print the ingredients for my card on the back of the card base. I just ran it through my printer with my list, but I did change the color to garden green using the RGB codes, and if you need to know more about that, check my website, bevadams.com. I love being able to match the ink color with my project. My next step after printing those up is to stamp the body of the butterfly, and there is a butterfly body stamp, and so I'm using Memento Black ink and stamping on both the little cutout and also the big one. At this point I'm ready to assemble. I have all my stamping done, all my cutting done, all my printing done, and so I just need to assemble the bases. I am adhering this layer flat, and so I thought I would use the multi-purpose glue, not only because it's cheaper, but it also gives me a little bit of wiggle room for drying time as I adhere this, so if I don't have it on right exactly perfect, I can wiggle it around. I have to be careful that the adhesive doesn't stick to another butterfly. Once I have the adhesive on a dozen or so butterflies, go ahead and put the silver thread on. Then I'm really only having to pick up my scissors that one time. I have to lay those out again. And then when I have all of that step for these dozen or so butterflies, go ahead and put all of the dimensionals down. Then I can pull out my card bases again and stick the butterflies on those. And then I just kind of redo this step for the next dozen or so. At this point now I've finished putting the butterflies onto the card bases with their little antennas, and my stack has gotten so tall that I've moved my cards to a basket. For this step I need to use glue dots because I don't want any of the adhesive to show, and so glue dots are really the way to go on this. So I'm going to start by putting the glue dots on the little butterfly on the body portion. I think I'm going to go ahead and put glue dots in the center of this butterfly as well. One needs to be kind of above the waist of the butterfly, and so I'll put this one right under it so that this layer can match exactly, and then this layer can fit on top and match. And I'm going to put my rhinestones on these little circles right here. And that will be my butterfly. A little bit of sparkle, the black coordinates. Love this card. If you want to order any of the products, or if you want the specific directions for this project, come on over to bevadams.com. Talk to you soon. Bye.